always the kind of person who has, seen other people in the world and thought, I wonder what yours, I bet you have a story, I wonder what your story is. But just wondering about that doesn't always give you access to that story. It's really none of my business, but I still want to know what is the experience of the other people in our community.
We wanted to do an outreach project, and when we started to look at the voices and the things that had been done about the history of Youngstown and people in Youngstown, we noticed that this had not been done, especially history of African Americans and African American women in particular. And interviewing older people felt like the priority, because just for time purposes. If we don't get these stories now, when are we going to get them? So we contacted the National Council of Negro Women, which is a long-standing organization in town, to ask them if they would put us in touch with 8 to 10 older black women who have deep roots in Youngstown. And they agreed to work with us on that. We ended up interviewing 6 women from the council and 6 women that we met through our contacts in the community.
I brought it to our general meeting, and the members really were excited, everybody, including myself, and it gave an opportunity for the members of the section to exemplify some of the things that they had been doing. A lot of the things that they had done prior we didn't know. We may not have had an opportunity to find out if the book hadn't come out.
We lived on so many different sides of town. The Monkey's Nest, we lived there. We used to live in the flats down on Valley Street. We lived in the Kimball Brooks housing for a while. We lived in Campbell for a while. I think it was 12th Street, and we lived on Center Street for a good period.
I was born in Youngstown in 1931 on High Street near the Glenwood entrance to Mill Creek Park. The house isn't there anymore.
My great-grandfather, they were renting a home on Willow Street on the east side. And when they rented another home on what was then called Maple Avenue. Later, because of the influx of so many Italians, the street name changed from Maple Avenue to Verona.
The process we used was to go to each person's home, and they were so wonderful about welcoming us into their homes, and it was such a privilege to be able to do that. We spent about an hour or 2 with each person, and we recorded the conversations. And then we transcribed the conversations and created written narratives out of them. We worked with some of our interns from Youngstown State University on the interviews, on the transcription, and on the writing. So it was really a community project to create the book and to capture the stories.
It was wonderful. It was a really rewarding experience that I don't think I'll forget about anytime soon. The women were really lovely to talk to. They offered a lot of insight about the past and the future. It was just like a really rewarding experience to work with the women and to talk to them and hear their stories. It was a good time.
It was just a no-brainer for me. In school, my focus was portraiture. Most of the photography that I do is portraiture. But often, you end up shooting things that you're being paid to shoot. That's what takes up your time. So getting out there and experiencing something new like we did, and meeting and interviewing people isn't something I get to do all the time, but it's something I am interested in. Ended up really enjoying, so I'm glad for the opportunity.
I'm glad that I was accepted to be in it. I didn't know what it would all be about, but it sounded very interesting. And because I like to write, most of the time I'm writing about somebody else, so the tables were turned and writing about myself instead.
Finding out about my cousin Joyce Davidson, she's our family historian, and she does a lot of writing, but some of the things that she went through, being the first black, working at the Sheet and Tube Credit Union, and a lot of those things, I didn't realize some of the things that she went through.
In high school, though I was a member of the National Honor Society, I could have been voted the class most shy person. In church I was shy, I was very quiet, I'd tear up in a minute. So I was hired, and I walked into an office where I wasn't wanted. In their eyes, I was incompetent, and they intended to prove it. To them, I couldn't do anything right. They continuously looked for mistakes, double-checking everything that I did. This was the atmosphere of my first job.
The stories themselves are beautiful and engaging and encouraging and heartbreaking. They tap into our empathy and our sense of community because they are this shared history, and we're so grateful.
It's not easy to invite a stranger into your home to talk about your life and answer questions that maybe are about some topics that are not very easy to talk about.
It was a learning experience to try to explain some of the things that people have gone through, people of color have gone through. The interviewer might have their perspective when the person being interviewed, might not have that same perspective.
I just wish the world would straighten out. And if these children don't get an education, it's sad. These kids need education.
If I could change anything, I'd change people. Change their mind or their way of thinking. Let it be love, caring. I miss that in people. I don't see a lot of that anymore. You know, when we were coming up, kids didn't sit up with grown folks when grown folks were sitting around talking, because kids repeat stuff, and kids will try and be grown. So you don't say and do some things around kids. I notice a lot of kids will mimic what they see and what they hear.
People need to stay involved in their schools and community. Community service is a great asset to yourself as well as to the community you are serving. It really puts you in contact with other people so you know what their lives are like. That's when you can make a real difference.
When you are knowledgeable, you know how to get information you need. Knowledge is everything.
I learned the hardest thing for young people to understand is that there's always going to be a tomorrow. And sometimes you may not think your dream is realized today.
But you should never give up on it.
Now that the book is complete, we will be giving away 100 copies of the book in the community for educational purposes. And we also hope that the book will reach a wider audience in Youngstown, because the stories really tell something very important about our shared history.
You know, everything was level, and I think everybody felt important being a part of the book. They felt like they were a star.
I hope that we can stay connected to what happens to the book after it leaves us. You know, if someone uses it in a classroom, I wonder what the impact will be. I would love for kids to think, oh, that's how it was for my grandparents to live in this community. That's how things have changed.
We would like to do more outreach like this in the future. We really know that there are thousands of stories out there like this, and each one is unique. And we're about telling stories and getting people's stories and helping them to be written down. So I think this project was a big step for us to step into the community.